Our dear viewers, good afternoon. Welcome to our GVL TV channel. So today we are having some kind of debate. We are inquiring and willing to listen at least from also your viewers and hearing from the people within. So today's topic, we are actually going to be debating about democratic government and non-democratic government, whereby there are people who believe the democratic government, the power that belongs to the people, is at least better than the power where that people like it's not in people's hands. So today we are having some gentlemen with us. There is Mr. Patrick Okumu, who believes in non-democratic government.
Yes.
We also have Honorable Ruhamya,
a political analyst and a transformative leader.
Believes in the democratic government, where he believes the power belongs to the people. So I think today, without wasting your time, let's begin with Mr. Patrick Okumu, who believes in the non-democratic government, to at least give us his views. And
thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. As he has just said, my name is Brother Okumu Patrick, here at GVL TV. So as the motion reads, that democratic government is better than non-democratic government. 100% very wrong to me as Patrick. What is democratic government? Democratic government is a system of government where power belongs to the people. And also non-democratic government is the system of government where power does not belong to the people officially, while to a certain ruling parties, for example, the kings or the military department. So I strongly support this motion by saying that non-democratic government is better than democratic government due to these fundamental points. Number one, discipline. You will find that in a non-democratic government, decisions is made by the leaders, and because power doesn't belong to the people, once the leader has set a decision, that decision it is obeyed and people officially move to it according to how laws are set to them. Why? For example, if we look at,
if I'm to interrupt a little bit, but I also thought also in the democratic governments, also decisions can also be able to be followed by people also.
Democratic government, power belongs to the people. But in a non-democratic government, power belongs to certain officials who are not the individual, who are not the people. So power is strictly in the hands of the military to rule the people. Now, I am feeding my point based on these fundamental areas. If you previously looked in the Bible, in the 1 Samuel 10:24, people of Israel, they called for God to give them their own king. Then in that time when God has to give them their own king, He did not give them authority to choose who will be their leader. Actually, He chose for them. He said, I have given you this and this king of every category of things that He shall do for you, but He did not give them authority to choose any king by themselves. He chose for them a king, and that was the first king of Israel called Saul. Now, why am I standing there? Because there is no way you are going to give power to the people and thinking that people, they know what is good for themselves. People are always meant to be controlled. And when you control their life, they do the right thing. That's where we see that in a non-democratic government, there is a lot of discipline which takes place. Okay. So, second point, there is less expenditure in a non-democratic government. Now, The system of democratic government is based on election. This election takes a lot of money. The expenditure put in parliament is a lot of money, which force the country to go into a debt burden. Even the government has to go and borrow and borrow and borrow. Any development which is to take place in the country ends up into borrowing. And eventually the country run in a debt burden. We have seen almost all African countries, which is under debt burden. Why? Because of democratic system of leadership. Now we can see it openly in military system of government or non-governmental system. For example, Ibrahim Captain Traore. He has now set a very primary example that shows that democratic government cannot stand in any figure to even propose any motion here by saying that they are better than the non-democratic leadership. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for the point that I have outlined, and I think it is a sense for everyone to come, call upon everyone and join me. We support that non-governmental system can work best in Africa rather than the democratic government system for God and my country. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you, Mr. Patrick Okumu, for your very intelligent views. Now we are changing to our political analyst, Mr. Ruhamia.
Yes, good afternoon. I have listened keenly to Patrick and his views, which I find a bit, let me not describe, but me, I believe in clean leadership. And clean leadership and democracy are superior and more reliable than military rule. The few incidences that where military rule has been successful only depends on few individuals. And even like for Captain Traore, it's too early to judge how he will behave eventually. Because some of these people start well. After attaining power and becoming too powerful, they start becoming the state themselves. They start becoming institutions. That's why human beings naturally need rules, need laws, and need constitutions. Because every time you rely on individuals, on the goodwill of the individual, you will be building on sand. In Uganda, we had a giant called Amin. He was a military leader. In the first years, people jubilated because he promised so many things, and he was developmental, he was nationalistic. But eventually, he overthrew the constitution, overthrew the laws, overthrew the rules. Eventually, the power was within him. Until he started killing, until he destroyed the country, including killing an archbishop. He killed doctors, killed professors. The economy went down, chased Indians. Whereas he should have addressed the economic issue using other means by consulting ministers and economists who knew how the world economics work. He relied on his military men. He was using his own power, overthrew the constitution. There was no parliament for 8 years, and the country, the economy was destroyed. We eventually had to have a war. It took us 40 years to recover. President Museveni, who promised fundamental change, and the men he came with, we first relied on his character and personality, because people thought he's incorruptible, he's honest, he's a visionary, he's a what? Eventually, Museveni has ruled forever. It's now 40 years. The constitution was ripped. Uganda had one of the best constitutions in 1995.
Yes.
If we had followed the constitution of 1995 and followed the term limits, Uganda would be like Singapore. Patrick talked about Israel. Israel, every time why Israel was successful. The greatest king of Israel was David, a man after God's own heart. David never relied, whereas he was a military genius and a giant and a commander, but he did not rely on his abilities of fighting alone. No. Every other time he consulted God. Joshua consulted God. Joshua consulted the 12 tribes of Israel. That's what Solomon did. When Solomon moved away from consulting and hearing from God's voice, that's how Israel was divided. Yes. And he brought other gods from elsewhere. So I believe that democracy and leadership for any part of the world, not only Uganda, not only Africa, anywhere in the world, constitutions, laws, rules are better than relying on a military genius or a military giant, irrespective of your own abilities. Even in communities and clans, why there were rules and laws and values was to try to make sure that you contain the excesses of any individual. Otherwise, if you rely on people, they will disappoint you. Mobutu in Congo started well. In Kenya, Moi started well until he ruled. So the people that have believed in democracy, in good governance, in rule of law, in constitutions, in consulting the people, have done well in the whole world, including Nyerere of Tanzania, including Kwame Nkrumah of Ghana, including Patrice Lumumba, including King David in Israel, including anywhere. So I believe in democracy. If there was no democracy and there was military rule, how would Obama from Norway, a Kenyan, who is a black American, how would we have become an American president? We would have relied on giants, military giants. So I believe in democracy. I believe in clean leadership. The excesses, the corruption, the abuse, the expenditure, the debt burden, it's not because we have constitutions and rules. No, it's because of corruption and weak institutions. We should strengthen the institutions.
Mr. Fred, I want to interrupt a little bit. What I'm asking, so you're trying to tell us there is completely no democratic government that is doing well at the moment, like a non-democratic government that is doing well at the moment?
It's accidental. It's only in Burkina Faso, by Toure. Toure has been ruling for 3 years.
Gaddafi was also good.
Gaddafi eventually, what happened? Gaddafi became the state. He ruled for 42 years. He wanted to put his son. Whereas the imperialists, the Bazungu, fought Gaddafi. But one of the challenges in Libya was because Gaddafi had become an eternal ruler. 42 years is not, because he's not a king. I don't believe that any leader, because you see, your abilities as a person or your skills should not overshadow the population. Gaddafi did so well. There was development in Libya. Whereas Gaddafi did so well, yes, economically because of oil and because of good process and because of no corruption.
And but he was still a non-democratic.
Yes, but now there was a problem. If Gaddafi had introduced term limits and handed over power after 20 years and left the institutions and the Libya to move on, and he advises like Nyerere did in Tanzania, like what they do in America, like what they do in Britain, like what they do in Botswana, like what they do in Tanzania, Libya and Gaddafi would be living. Libya would be a stable country, but because the man ruled for 42 years and was continuing and wanted to hand over to his son, now the Bazungu took advantage of the...
Sorry to come within this. Yes. What I'm also like trying to hear from Mr. Patrick. Are you agreeing with what they are saying, that Gaddafi wasn't in the right way?
100% I cannot believe and accept that. Gaddafi was a very pure African good leader.
Should anyone rule for 40 years?
No, it doesn't matter how long someone is to rule, because in a democratic government we have seen how they have failed to even leave the power. They still want to rule. So we believe that when you rule and you rule well, it is good. But now when you are ruling and there is serious complaint, debt burden, and people are not enjoying, there is, you see, in democratic government, they believe in freedom of speech, and you cannot have that freedom. So what does it help to have democracy rather than having a military government where they set a decision and people abide to that?
Yes, sir. Okay, let's
ask.
Yeah.
How comes that in Tanzania, which is a democratic nation, there is progress, there is peace, there is unity, there is transformation. India, the greatest democracy in the world, with 1.4.2 billion people, built on the foundations of Gandhi, one of the greatest human beings that has ever lived,
Yes.
is based on democracy. It's the biggest democracy. They use the constitution, they use laws, they use values, and India is successful.
Yes.
It's not a military what. America, one of the big democracies. Britain, where the values of constitutions and laws and rules on the English law started, is one of the successful nations. So clearly, whether in Africa, whether elsewhere in Europe or America or Asia, democracy, rule of law, constitutions is more reliable and dependable. It's just a question of making sure that you obtain and contain the overreaching of individuals. We should rely on institutions and constitutions and rules and laws, and not on the magnanimity of a military leader, on the goodness of a leader. After all, we've seen that Gaddafi abused it and many others abused it. The best way is to use the constitution.
He might have abused it, but at least we see like there was he was moving on well, like it was a development, a good development for the country.
Now, when you have, I don't know how they say it in Africa, if you use a cross for carrying a baby and it kills the baby, then eventually you see that this cross carried so many babies, but the babies are dead. Libya, all the infrastructure that was built for 4 decades has been destroyed in less than 5 years. Meaning that Gaddafi's philosophy and ideology was wrong.
Okay.
If Gaddafi had embraced democracy and the rule of law and the constitution and handed over power and believed in institutions and built systems that are strong and used his knowledge and love for his country and ideas to work with others, the people must own the nation, must own the programs, must own the democracy of their country, must know where they are going. A vision of one individual cannot make a nation or a society.
Let's also intervene a little bit and see what Mr. Patrick also has to say, like on those very points you are giving.
Concerning the point of Gaddafi, if we are to stand still on the ground, Gaddafi was one of the best leader that any African person
But it's now in ashes.
who didn't know this should know. Now, what is all this contradiction about Gaddafi? It is, you see, under democratic government, they have superiority, the superpower always indulge into the affairs of people in Africa, to rule just like the way they are, not knowing here we are in Africa. So in a democratic government, they tend to come and control the cultural values norms, which is in Africa,
how do you explain that now Libya is in ashes?
in a way that they had to see that Gaddafi's ruling was so good, it was uniting Africa, bringing Africa together, showing them a direction, then eventually they had to become jealous.
Now, our honorable was also inquiring, like, how do you have to explain, like, how Libya is in ashes at the moment?
Now, what you have to know that there is so much hands which were standing to fight the kind of foundation leadership that the late brought. So, in an attempt of seeing that what he has done for Libyans, they want to reverse it.
So
By
when
first
they fight
fight, eh?
when they fight Toure, they shot him stronger.
Now that is where, if you are a real African person, you should know that when someone has started to open our eyes to stand and do the right thing, this is the high time we should support the person by not just saying, hey, they should fight him. Why should you fight our man? when we are here seeing is doing the right thing.
But if I'm to also ask,
Yes.
can you also give putting Gaddafi aside, give us some other more people we are supposed to look at, like the non-democrats that have all been able to develop the countries and probably.
Already I have told you, Captain Ibrahim Traore, this is just of recently. We have seen how he is just ruling country with a period of 2 years.
Out of 54
It
countries,
is only
where are the success stories?
But now when we talk about countries, even out of the 54 countries we have in Africa, there is none country in Africa which is successful in democracy.
I have to cut you short
I'm
a
telling
little
you,
bit.
our viewers are going
and
to
we
comment in the
turn-
comment section.
I told
They are
you-
going to comment in the comment section to tell
I
us
told you,
if there is an African country
Tanzania-
which is successful.
And now what
Tanzania-
they are saying, out of
Tanzania
the
is
54 countries,
Yes.
we only have 2 or 1.
One.
we
Yes,
have
Burkina Faso.
We have Burkina Faso.
So,
Eh,
in African
let
countries,
let him tell me the successful ones.
Tanzania is a success story. Botswana is a success story. South Africa is a success story. Mauritius is a success story. Ghana is a success story. I mean,
Now, stop. You can't talk about South Africa being in a good state. This is a South Africa whose land is not by themselves. The lands are taken. You go to Ontario. The land is owned by Bazungu. Now, you can't say those people in South Africa who are living totally, the real South African people, they're in a total slum land.
If,
Johannesburg does not belong to them. They are there in a shallow
I think
process.
Mr.
So I
Fred
can't
also has
believe
to.
that there is-
Mr. Fred should
that
should
democracy
explain
is
to us
helping
more
them.
about
They-
South Africa
South
concerning
Africa-
this.
There is
you see
nothing.
when Museveni was not yet drunk on power, he used to say that when you are coming from the pit, you don't underestimate the amount of sunshine that comes to you. After all, you are not used to it. You must look at the history of South Africa in the last 2 centuries. Where did South Africa come from? The South Africa we're talking about starts in 1994 when Mandela gets out of prison. And there has been progress.
Yes.
The challenges of South Africa have taken more than a century, more than 100 years. You cannot correct that in 30 years. But there is progress. At least now, Africans can access a number of offices, a number of institutions.
Just intervening a little bit. What Mr. Patrick was trying to say was like he's saying South Africa is now not in the hands of the Africans.
It is in hands of Africans who is the president.
Now,
Not only that, they can now go to hotels where they used not to go. They are in institutions, they are in government. South Africa, that's why I'm saying that you must understand the history of South Africa. During apartheid, the Bazungu had taken over most of the institutions. When Mandela took over, and Mbeki and Zuma, unfortunately Zuma was an idiot, just he was corrupt. The progressive forces of South Africa have gained something in the last 3 decades. And they are trying to undo what was done in the last 2 centuries or 3.
Okay, let me
now,
pass you,
the
hold
thing is
you
like
there.
this. The coming of Bazungu to rule South Africa did not find South Africa centralized. You understand? Because it is when South Africa is to gain their independence. Then what was the state of ruling that take over? Democracy. It was a democracy. Now the forcing of Mandela to sign an agreement for South Africa to live safe was to take a land. Don't think it was just an agreement so that now they live. It was to take a land so that the massive killings and everything stops. But was that good for us as Pan-Africans? Our land must be our land for ourselves. We can't have to accept any agreement that comes. Simani, because of the superior, they understand the way they rule people. Then they impose such ruling to our country. It is not helpful.
The hope of Africa and the progress of Africa and the development of Africa is in the hands of Africans. It's not at the mercy of Bazungu, it's not at the mercy of Chinese, it's not at the mercy of Asians or Indians. Anything that can be done in Africa must be strengthening institutions, rule of law, and good governance and clean leadership. We must fight corruption, we must fight tribalism, we must fight stealing and looting by Africans. Most of the resources being stolen because now most African countries have been independent for the last 60 decades. The failures in Africa cannot be now attributed to Chinese or Indians or the British or Americans. No, it's African leaders who are corrupt, and our brothers and sisters, they are not Chinese. The people are eating money for roads, for drugs. So what should be done is strengthening democracy, good governance, clean leadership, constitutions, the rule of law, and the term limits everywhere must be instituted. After every 2 terms, whether it's 10 years or 14 years, depending on the respective countries, I believe that's democracy, not military, that will save Africa.
Okay.
We can only have strong military to keep law and order and defend the nation, but not to be in leadership or in charge of the country.
Okay. I think with those very points at least we've had, we are going to now to open it to the viewers.
Okay.
To also be able to help us through and understand well whether like the democratic government is better than the non-democratic government.
It's okay. As we open the doors to the viewers,
Right is better than darkness. Democracy and good governance is better than military.
I will still have to conclude by understanding
At
that.
least, okay, now let's make our conclusions just in
that,
some 2 minutes. I'm giving everyone 2 minutes.
Where are the key lights, or where are the directions of democracy?
Okay.
Who owns democracy? Who started democracy? Who infiltrate democracy for people to understand and impose into such kind of leadership? We will realize it is the superpower which is bringing us all that kind of ideology. You understand? Way back before Africa, we are not independent and whatsoever. We were living into our own system of living. Before the whites came in to begin showing us that you can live like this in your country, we want you to indulge into election, just like how they are now forcing Ibrahim Traore. Why? Why should you have to force Africa to live into the way that you want?
Okay.
It must be Africa to decide themselves. Okay? When we go biblically, for sure, mode of succession in powers are not owned by people, because God knows us very well that we don't know what we want, but He Himself, He knows what we want, and He knows our powers and the weakness, how we are going to overcome to live with something successful. Now, in an attempt of starting to understand the whites who tend to teach us, guide us, live like this. If you're going to lead like this. We have seen how democratic government, they have tried to live the way they have taught them. Even they ended up failing to utilize it very well in their country.
I think I'll have to cut you short, though we still have a lot of views and
so
points.
Much, Mr. Chairman. My points remain. Non-democratic government is better than democratic government.
Thank you very much, Mr. Patrick Okumu. We are going to get also a conclusion from our Honorable Rohamia.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Yes, sir.
I still insist and believe that the upholding of the Constitution, of democracy, of rule of law, of good governance is extremely important and more reliable and sustainable than military rule and non-democratic rule. We've already spoken about India, Britain, America, Singapore, Botswana, South Africa, Tanzania, all successful countries, most successful countries, other than the few that are in Arab countries, which are based mainly on strong culture, meaning that they have rules and laws and how they govern. They are basing on rules. But for anybody to think that you rely on the magnanimity, on the skills, on the capacity, on the goodness, on the kindness, on the good intentions of an individual is a fallacy. It has never worked. Where it has worked, it has ended up in a catastrophe. Yes. So I believe in democracy, I believe in good governance, I believe in rule of law, I believe in consultations. Even during our African culture, there is a way people would marry, there is a way people would respect each other as elders, there was a council of elders, there is a way people would trade with each other. So there were rules and laws. They may not have been written like current constitutions, but democracy and the rule of law is extremely important and more reliable not only in Africa, but the whole world.
Okay.
And where there has been successes and progress and transformation, it has been because of good leadership and clean leadership and good governance based on rule of law, on constitutions, on respect of human rights.
Okay.
Yes, for God and my country.
Thank you very much, Honorable Rohamya.
Yes.
We thank you very much for the very big points. Actually, these were touching points. Most of us, we must have not been knowing most of the things these people were talking about. At least we've got to understand more. And we are still also waiting to get more views from our viewers to at least help us and analyze the points and tell us which one is better and how things are supposed to move. So thank you very much, Honorable and Mr. Patrick.
Thank you.
Thank you for.
Amen.
Amen.